What's up, guys? I'm BTC. Welcome back to the Respawn, where I answer your questions. Today we're talking new passives, Hero 31, and more. First question, why does the Venomine have a 15-second cooldown even though it's one of the weakest abilities in the game? It's probably because they just don't want Widow spamming it into choke point areas so that she has X-ray up almost all the time. But even still, yeah, 15 seconds is way too long. They should probably lower it to maybe 10 or 12 seconds. Do you think Nano should give speed boost again so Lucio isn't the only one that gives the buff? No, I don't think it needs it. You already get several things: the damage boost, the damage resistance, and the instant heal. So it already does a whole bunch of stuff. You don't have to add more into it. But the problem is that, yeah, Lucio's the only one that provides speed boost, so they should be adding new support characters that can also provide speed boost in one way or another. It doesn't necessarily need to be an area effect thing like what Lucio does, maybe even single target speed boosts, that would work fine, but you don't need to add more stuff to the Nano. It already does plenty. If you were to give a hero a new passive, what would it be? I would give Roadhog something probably called Intimidation, and it would lower the amount of ult charge you can get from attacking him by, let's say, 20%. One of the biggest problems with Roadhog is that he's an ult battery, and you can get around this by giving him a passive that lowers that ult charge gain on the enemy players. Now, this wouldn't necessarily make Roadhog stronger, but it would just make it so that he's not as much of a detriment in that ult charge kind of situation. So he still has the same damage, he still has the same health and all the cooldowns, and everything remains the same. It's just you can't build ult charge off him quite as fast. He wouldn't be that ult battery. I've been talking about that for over a year. I think that would be a great passive that he could have. What do you think is the most viable comp currently? In the pro scene, it's still Goats. On the ladder, it's some form of Orisa Roadhog Bunker. At the higher ranks, you're going to have things like Double Sniper, and then in the lower ranks, you'll have just other random DPS. What is the Clockwork comp? So just like Goats was named after a team, Clockwork is named after a team that's been using it. It's a form of aggressive bunker where you have Roadhog, Orisa, Mei, and Torbjorn, and they get up really close. They use the ice wall to cut off the enemy team, and they're very aggressive with the halts and the Roadhog hook, but it takes a huge amount of coordination in order for this to actually work. And also, I'm not entirely certain on this, but I believe most of the players are one-tricks, or at least they heavily specialize in those characters of Mei and Torbjorn. So it's not something that you can just kind of throw together on the ladder and expect it to work. Would getting a more mechanically dependent tank entice people to play the role? Maybe a very little bit, but not really. The thing is, most players want to play DPS because they want to pew-pew, and they want to get those big flashy, team-wiping ultimates, and they want to have play of the game and all that sort of stuff. The thing with healing is it's not nearly as exciting as doing the pew-pew, and same thing with tanking. Blocking damage isn't really all that exciting. Yeah, you could have a tank that requires lots more button pressing and lots more intricate timings and all that sort of stuff, but if you're not doing the pew-pew and you're not getting the team wipes and the play of the games, then a lot of players are still just not really going to care to play it. It's just one of the problems of having the multiple roles. It's just the way it is. What do you think about an ability that causes friendly fire debuff on the enemy? I've seen this brought up a bunch. I don't think it's a good idea. I think it would just be way too frustrating, and it would be way too annoying. And what you would end up having is, so let's say it gets activated and then one player ends up taking out their teammate. They're just going to constantly start complaining at each other. Why did you hit me? Blah, blah, blah. All this sort of stuff. They're going to, be just kind of all sorts of toxic, and they're going to yell at each other, and they're going to complain, and then they're going to block each other. People are going to leave voice chat. There's going to be reports, all that sort of stuff. I just don't think I think it's too frustrating, and it's not a good idea to have in the game. When I'm Roadhog and I pull an enemy over an environmental kill, should I shoot them before they drop? Will I get more ult charge? No. You get the same ult charge as if you had hit them or not. It doesn't matter. What are your thoughts on Overwatch 2? I don't think it's not gonna replace Overwatch. If it's what I think it is, it's not gonna replace it. It's gonna be some sort of co-op story mode would be my best guess. and it's going to be something that people play when they're tired of the competitive ladder, and that's probably going to be it. So, like, you go and you play cooperatively, or you go and play the original Overwatch and you play competitively against enemies. It's pretty much what it is. When damage boosting as a Mercy, do I damage boost when Ryan's Fire Strike leaves the hammer or when it hits the enemy? So they just recently changed this. Before, you used to have to damage boost them before it hit the enemy, but now you have to damage boost your teammate as they press the button to attack. So whether it's a primary attack or an ability, doesn't matter what it is, they have to have the damage boost applied to them when they press the button to fire it out. So that's how it works. You think Blizzard will add a DPS character this year, even though the game doesn't need more DPS? So there's definitely a lot of DPS characters. There's more DPS than there are tank and support combined. But the kind of interesting thing is right now, the meta is essentially determined by the tanks, right? We had Goats for forever, which is still kind of a thing. And now we have Bunker with Orisa and Roadhog and one of those variations, right? So we actually kind of do need more DPS that can do a better job of kind of working around the enemy tanks. So I'm not entirely certain what that would require. I mean, we certainly could use new tanks to have new strategies, so you could go that route as well, but adding new DPS isn't necessarily the worst thing. Unless it's, you know, like, for example, when Ashe got added, she did absolutely nothing whatsoever to change the state of the game, and she has a very bad low pick rate as a result of it. Adding a new DPS could change things, it could kind of shake up the game a bit, but it has to be something more than just what we've already had. Do you think the next hero will be a tank or a healer, with that being an off-main tank or off-main healer? I think the next hero is probably going to be a tank, and I'm thinking it's a tank, as in a character that can actually defend its teammates, as opposed to like what Hammond does, where he just kind of disrupts the enemies. It will be a tank that actually can protect your team. I mean, they just added a healer that has area effect healing, so at this point, it could be anything, right? Like, why would you add an AoE healer when Goats was already popular? Baptiste didn't really have too much of an impact on Goats itself, but, I mean, it just goes to show that they're just adding stuff. So I think it's going to be a tank, but I don't know. Is it harder to climb in looking for group or solo queue? Solo queue is definitely the hardest to climb. When you're in looking for group, it's not a guaranteed win, but at the very least, you know you're going to have a better team comp going into the match, and they should be trying to win, and you're going to have less of a chance of having a thrower or a lever or anything like that. When do you think Hero 31 will be announced? Probably first week of July. If they're going by what has happened in the past couple years, first week of July. Now, Jeff Kaplan did talk about how they're going to move stuff around this summer, but I think he's more talking about the summer games as opposed to the new character, but we'll have to wait and see. But I still think first week of July. What ultimate is the most powerful in raw numbers? That would be Pharah's Barrage. It does 1,200 damage per second for 3 seconds. Do you think they will ever make a November event? Probably not, because you've got the Halloween event and then you have the Christmas event, so they're probably not going to put another one in November. They might have like a mini event that lasts for 1 week and it's involved around a single character, like what they had with the Diva and the Nano Cola kind of thing. They could do that, but I don't think they're going to have like a major event in November. Smoke screen in Overwatch. I saw it in some hero No smoke screens. It is the most overused and unoriginal ability. It seems like 1 in every 3 hero concepts has some kind of a smoke screen ability. No, it's just not good. It's not good. It's not original. It doesn't need to be in the game. Does Orisa's Fortify stop Mei's freeze slow effect? Yes, it does. It resets it fully, so that way you have to start getting frozen again. Dangle, which heroes can kill through Transcendence? Anything that has high burst. You need to do the damage instantly and not over time. So things like McCree, Junkrat, Diva, Tracer, those are going to instantly deal a huge amount of damage, and you can't heal a teammate that already has 0 health. So other attacks, other ultimates like Hanzo or Soldier's Tact Visor, those sorts of things, Transcendence can easily heal through those, but the big burst ones is the ones that can actually get through it. Aren't off tanks basically DPS with a lot of health? In Overwatch, yeah, none of the characters in the tank category are really what I would call off tanks. They're more bruisers is the correct term to use for them, which is essentially a very high health character that deals damage. So, yeah, to answer your question, yes, they're basically bruisers, which is just a high health DPS. What situation should I switch off of Zenyatta? If you're getting dove a lot and your team is either not helping you or they're not doing a good enough job of helping you, then you should switch off of Zenyatta. Because remember, when you're dead, your healing and your damage is 0. So if that's happening a lot, just switch to somebody else. That is going to be it for today. Thanks to everyone who submitted a question. If yours didn't get picked, you can try again next week. Remember, I don't answer questions that have already been answered in previous videos. On my Discord is a big master list of all the previous questions, so you can go and check that out. And maybe your question has already been answered there. And I will post the new question card this Saturday and on the community section of my YouTube. That's where you post your questions for the next respawn. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to see more, subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss anything. Also, come hang out in my Discord server and my Twitch live stream. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters. If you'd like to see what kind of cool VIP rewards you can get, check the links down below. And remember, always blame the controller, because it's never your fault.